Well, welcome everyone. Thank you for joining this webinar on plug-in solar panels hosted by United Central Coast for Action, a program of the Slow Climate Coalition. I am John Smigelski. I lead the United Central Coast for Action program. We deeply appreciate the support of our partner organizations, which help promote this webinar. We continue to work with our partners and with you and our audience to further our transition to clean energy and develop resilience in our communities. We're excited to bring you today's program, Plug-in Solar, coming to California. We have a trio of excellent presenters. Hopefully with your help, we can make it happen here in California. We are recording this webinar and a copy will be sent to all registrants. After the presentations, we will have a Q&A section. During the presentations, please enter your questions into the Q&A feature. It is my pleasure to introduce our first presenter, Cora Stryker of Bright Saber, to discuss the product and the technology. Cora is co-founder of Bright Saber, a company which is building a movement to make solar ownership affordable and accessible to all. It is focused on rapid growth, community empowerment, and accelerating decarbonization. Cora, the
All
floor is yours.
right. Hey, everyone. Good morning or good lunch hour. We're delighted to be here. We're so excited about what's happening in California and nationwide. And I'm going to talk about what we're seeing nationwide, what's happening in Germany, and how we're well on our way to following their playbook in terms of widespread adoption of balcony or plug-in solar. And we're a nonprofit. We have no affiliations with the manufacturers. Our goal is to make this accessible to everyone who wants it. So what is plug-in or balcony solar, as it's sometimes called? These are small solar panels, and it's a regular old PV unit. The panel is exactly what you're used to seeing. The special thing about it is there's an inverter that converts the DC of the panel into the alternating current that your home can use. And this inverter is special because it plugs directly into a standard outlet. So this is a big part of the secret sauce of what is making this take off in Germany. People can buy these at IKEA, sometimes a grocery store, for a few $100s, bring it home, plug it in themselves, and they're producing clean energy and reducing their electricity bills that month or that day. Sorry. It's a bit of a reversal here because we're used to drawing electricity from our outlets, but this is putting electricity back into the outlets, sort of like an appliance in reverse. These are not off-grid systems. Those systems do exist. This is for the majority of us who live in urban suburban homes. So we are a nonprofit, but we do have earned revenue from selling these things quite below market value to make them accessible to everyone we can. And these are the two that we have sold. You'll see on the left, there's what we call a balcony setup. That one is zip tied to a deck or a balcony. It's pretty lightweight. You can move it. Just one person can move it. I've seen an 80-something-year-old woman move it. The one on the right is much heavier. Those are larger panels, 400 watt. The one on the left is varies a little bit, but somewhere in the ballpark of 200 watts. So the one on the right, these are heavier. You need two people to move them generally, and you put them in the backyard generally is where we've seen them. But these are very versatile. You can put them at patios, you can put them on decks, you can put them on the side of your house. And they're generally movable. It does depend a little bit on the model, but generally you can take them with you when you move. And we really see this as an on-ramp to solar. I mean, as everyone on this call knows, solar is the cheapest energy on the planet, full stop. We should be at 90% adoption, but we're not. How do we get there? We expand the menu of solar options for consumers to make energy affordable. This is our primary goal. We are climate people. We really care about the climate. I know everyone on this call does, but we've really seen, in my opinion, slow growth of the climate movement. We think everyone should be alarmed. We think this should be first priority for everyone, but we're not seeing that. And we really see this, these ultra affordable solutions to the energy affordability crisis as our gateway, our on-ramp to not just solar adoption, but caring about climate. You get these, you see your electricity bill go down, you start thinking about clean energy, and suddenly it becomes a voting priority. So for us, this is way bigger than these little panels. It's really Bill McKibben called it a gateway drug, and I like that phrase. So it makes energy more affordable. It provides resilience if it's combined with batteries, meaning if the grid goes down, you can plug your refrigerator directly into these batteries. Depends on the model, and of course, climate. Could displace millions of metric tons of CO2 equivalent emissions. And why do we think this is possible? We know it's possible because it's happening in Germany right now. So Germany is about 10 years ahead of us. And they have seen the prices of these panels just fall precipitously, particularly in the last 4 years. And not surprisingly, we've seen adoption surge. This graph, you'll notice, is the number of registered balcony solar units in Germany. That's around 1 million. We know that the actual number is much, much higher, in the ballpark of 4 million. I've actually heard up to 5 million, but I can't verify that. Either way, we're talking about gigatons of CO2 equivalent emissions displaced. We're talking about, thousands, millions, hundreds of thousands of dollars saved in energy bills. And this is what we want to do here. And I just want to show this image. I mean, this is the vision, right? We know there are landlords in Germany right now who consider this kind of a selling point to their tenants. We know there are buildings in Germany that really are covered with these solar panels. And this is where we want to get in California, in urban areas, in suburban areas, in rural areas. They are so versatile, they can go just about anywhere. So how does this work? These are very simple systems. So you've got your PV panels on the left producing direct current. And as I mentioned, we have an inverter that converts that DC current to alternating current that your home wiring can use. And it travels through as an inverter and plugs directly into the wall of your apartment, house, etc. The thing that we really need to reform here is these regulations that essentially regulate these systems as though they're much larger systems, rooftop systems or utility scales. And so what that means is that if you want one of these right now, you have to fly under the radar of your utility company, because in all but Utah, in every state other than Utah, you are technically required to get an interconnection agreement. So this is what it looks like in the other 49 states. It looks the same on the left, but when we get to the right side, you have either a battery that allows zero export to the grid, or you install a piece of hardware at the breaker box to prevent that flow of electricity back to the grid in the event that you're producing excess energy in your house or apartment. Now, that is very rare. These are pretty low generation systems. Almost all of the electricity will be consumed within the household by your refrigerator, your router, your base load of electricity usage. But if there's even a theoretical possibility that one electron could pass back to the grid, you're technically supposed to get an interconnection agreement in 49 out of 50 states. And that is the fundamental thing we're trying to change. We're trying to create a new category, a new legal category for these little systems so that we can exempt from that interconnection agreement. By the way, this has material consequences. Having to install this extra piece of hardware just about doubles the cost. And these are some of the folks who participated in our pilot. Again, we're a nonprofit. We serve folks in the Bay Area primarily, though we have a few in other areas. And you'll see a lot of folks adopted this not for climate, but actually for cost savings. And again, we consider that a watershed moment in the climate movement to get more Americans caring about this, more Americans to a place where they don't have to pay a green premium for clean energy solutions. In fact, they save money by adopting the cheapest energy on the planet. So last year, this is the model that we're following here in California, and actually 29 states as of today. This is Raymond Ward. He read a New York Times article, read about what was happening in Germany, and really wanted one of these systems for himself. So he passed a very simple piece of legislation that does this interconnection exemption. And we really are seeing a wave across the country. So 29 bills have introduced this legislation, plus DC makes 30. Virginia's already passed. Virginia is on the governor's desk. And that reflects the fact that it's really at the head of the pack in terms of timing. It was introduced toward the beginning. We see this happening across the country. And we're super excited about California because our market is so large. This could make balcony solar, plug-in solar take off almost on its own. I do want to touch here at the end about safety because this is the opposition strategy. There are parties who don't want this to take off for their own self-interest, and their strategy is to raise questions about the safety, to confuse legislators and confuse stakeholders. So let's not be confused here. UL, which is the gold standard of safety certifications for appliances, released their first guidance for these plug-in systems December 11th of 2025. And I've been listening to the hearings, and a lot of the opposition, it's as though they haven't even read it. So that is a real opportunity for us to be more informed and not get confused and explain to the people who need to understand what this actually is. So the great thing about this new UL standard is it mitigates for all the risks we've heard about, and we've been at this for about 10 months. It eliminates the risk of shock, of house fires, of even structural concerns like fire egress. What if it falls off a balcony? It does this in the most conservative way possible, based on testing under real world worst case conditions, old wiring in houses, etc. And we feel very confident that the UL guidance, even though we know it will evolve through the ANSI process and feedback from public comment, we feel quite confident that it will reflect a very conservative certification that will bring the major manufacturers to our country. And it's also aligned with NEC and NFPA. And one thing I want to say about this opposition argument about raising the risks of passing this, it's more risky not to pass it. We know all across the country, in California right now, people are installing uncertified systems. Why is that a problem? That's because they don't mitigate for any of these risks that we want to protect consumers from. So that is something we really need to bear in mind. It is safer to pass this legislation because it requires safety standards than it is to let this gray market continue. And we see market enablement. We see this taking off on its own as soon as we get 5 states. By the way, California all by ourselves could make this happen because passing this legislation will get the reputable manufacturers into the game. They will produce systems that are certified to mitigate for all these safety hazards. They will compete against each other. Prices will get lower. And pretty soon we will be where Germany is, where you can pay these off in 1 to 3 years. Especially here in California, since we have the second most expensive energy in the country. The other piece of safety that you'll hear the opposition raise is grid level safety. There was a report released also in December. This is kind of breaking news a little bit, By Brooks Engineering, he modeled out what would happen if 40% of Americans had these little systems at 1,200 watts, which is what the California legislation caps these systems at. And even at 40% adoption, which even we think is optimistic, you would see no net export to the grid. So it would all be consumed before it reached the substation within the neighborhood. So we think that this report is on our website, brightsaver.org. Please read it, please spread it, please fortify yourself, inoculate yourself, and inoculate everyone you know against the arguments that are going to come up from the opposition about safety. And this is what we project in our white paper, also on our website. We project a really precipitous drop in payback period. So we've really crossed the threshold of clean energy adoption among people who climate is not their first priority. It grows the climate movement, and we're going to see this happen, but only with legislative change. Legislative change is the first necessary step toward this reality where we think tens of millions of Americans producing clean energy, and at scale, it really makes a difference.
Okay, thank you, Cora.
Yeah.
Our next speaker is Bernadette Chiaro. She has 30 years experience building nonprofit organizations focused on the goals of clean energy and a healthier environment. She currently leads the Environmental Working Group's California operations. Its mission is to provide people with breakthrough research to enable them to make informed choices about food, products, and lifestyle. Bernadette?
Thank you so much, John. Yeah, great to be here. I'm zooming in from Sacramento, near the state capitol, where we're busy working to pass SB 868. So I wanted to piggyback off of Cora's excellent presentation to give you a kind of a bird's eye view of what this bill does and how we need to get it across the finish line. And then Dave is going to wrap up with what specifically can you do to help us get this great technology to the market. Real quickly, just because I always feel like I want to give a public service announcement to the reason why EWG cares a lot, Environmental Working Group, about solar energy is because our energy currently in America is incredibly toxic. So there's the climate change issues that you all are extremely well aware of and well versed in. But I always want to remind people that our forms of energy right now are also really bad for our lungs, for our hearts, for our just our bodies in general, and the bodies of the other organisms that we share this planet with, and we need to move away from toxic energy, particularly bad for our kids. Also, just a reminder that solar energy is like hands down the most abundant form of energy on the planet. So this one is a real no-brainer for us to put a lot of our time and energy into. Distributed solar, so this kind of solar that fits into where we live, work, and play, is really the most environmentally friendly of all the different alternative energy resources. We need all of the above, but this is really worth again, a lot of our time and energy. There's no byproducts. It doesn't, nothing to bump into because these products, these technologies don't move, can be built into our living space so that we don't have to, ruin open space. And the basic materials are widely available and recyclable. It's also incredibly popular wherever you go. I always like to think about environmental solutions where, Google Map, and you could take the little yellow man, plop them down anywhere on a map, and would you get people nodding their head yes? If if the answer is yes, then we've got ourselves a winner. Let's lean into that. And there's nothing quite like rooftop solar, because it works everywhere, and it has all of these great, very bipartisan values that come with it, like energy independence and self-sufficiency and local control. Really nobody can argue with that. And so we have built an amazing rooftop solar market in California. These are hardwired photovoltaic technologies. Many of you are aware, many of you have them probably on your homes, on your kids' schools. The majority of people with rooftop solar are working and middle class, and 52% are people of color, basically as diverse as California, which makes sense because we all have a utility bill. We all have sunshine, and we all want to get out from underneath the utilities. And now we have balcony solar. Thanks to Cora's great work, this beautiful photo this beautiful, lovely friend in the Bronx has a little balcony solar system. I lifted this from Canary Media, but I just love her bright, sunny face and sweater, and the image also of solar working in the snow. It's important to us as a national organization that people understand it doesn't just work in places like California. And as Cora mentioned, these systems really, even though very small, they can power and have a meaningful impact on our daily lives by powering our everyday appliances. And we've done the math here in California using California electricity rates, and we find that even some of these smaller systems will pay for themselves relatively quickly, even at today's prices, and save people and put real money in working California's pockets. This is just to piggyback on Cora's explanation in case you're still a little unclear on how it works. Here's a house, a normal house connected to the grid. It's got a refrigerator, it's got a little heat pump air conditioner, it's got a Wi-Fi router and a light bulb. And all of the electricity is purple coming from the electric grid. But when you plug in one of these portable solar kits, whether it's on your balcony or on your back deck or whatever, it doesn't matter. Basically, the solar electrons flow into the home. And one thing that a lot of people don't understand is that two things. One is electricity doesn't have a direction. Electricity can move in any direction, just like water in a pipe. Electricity just moves to the nearest demand, essentially. It's a physics called Kirchhoff's law. And so, and then it's proximity. So if your refrigerator is closer to the solar panel, it's going to run off of solar electricity, not off of grid electricity. So it's just the way electrons move, and that our wires in our walls, the wires that are behind those outlets that we're also familiar with, they're all connected, just like the water pipes in your home are all connected. They're all connected. So if you basically plug in solar to one outlet, it's going to make its way through your house and immediately power whatever devices are plugged in and operating at that moment that the sun is generating electricity. This immediately reduces the amount of electricity you would have otherwise purchased from the grid. So it immediately starts saving you money. And that's in essence how it works. A hardwired system up on your roof is exactly the same thing. It just comes in right at the meter in one kind of foul swoop in a larger quantity, and it's hardwired. That's really the only difference here is the portability, the size, and then the point of entry is an outlet as opposed to right there at the electric meter. And so, as Cora mentioned, this great technology is both not that new and yet not here. And that's because of the regulatory uncertainty. Businesses need certainty in order to really invest in a market. And so that's our job with legislation, is to create that market certainty for these businesses so that we can start selling these products in Home Depot and Lowe's and IKEA and wherever else. And as Cora mentioned, obviously, once we build the market, we'll get a chicken and egg over the chicken and egg problem. So we'll create the demand, and that'll help lower prices through economies of scale, and it'll help standardize these products. So SB 868, this is a brand new piece of legislation authored by California State Senator Scott Wiener out of San Francisco. What the bill does, it's very, very simple. You can go online and read it yourself. It's only a few pages. And what it does is basically it defines what a portable solar system is. So when we talk about these technologies, we are defining them to be their portable, so they're movable. They're not permanently affixed to a building. They're under 1,200 watts. If you don't speak watts, to give you a sense of a typical average rooftop solar system is around 6,000 watts. So this is about 1/6 the size of a typical hard-mounted on your roof solar system. It plugs into a single wall outlet, a regular wall outlet, and that microinverter that Cora talked about, the device that sits in between the solar panel and the plug, is that converts the electricity into the kind your home uses every day. That comes with a special feature, as do all solar systems in California. And that special feature shuts the solar panel off if the grid goes down. This is an important safety feature for power line workers, that we're not sending electricity back to the grid when there is a grid outage. And so that come with that. So it's an important safety feature. So that's the definition of a portable system that the law would codify. The second thing that it does is it requires those UL standards, Underwriter Laboratory or equivalent nationally recognized testing lab. This is how we make sure that every appliance that any of us buy, whether it's a refrigerator, a toaster oven, a hair dryer, or our computer, that these things off the shelf are safe for us as consumers to use. That's the same kind of standardization we want these products to go through. And then last and certainly not least, we want to establish in state law that utility interconnection permission from your utility is not required to do these. As Cora mentioned, the utilities have a very expansive definition of grid interactive systems that require interconnection. And we just know if we go down that road, that will create such uncertainty for the industry and for consumers. It will require people to do things that are simply take this technology out of the hands of renters, and it's absolutely not needed. You do not register your refrigerator or your toaster oven with PG&E. We shouldn't need to register our small little portable solar devices either. And then the bill also makes it clear that the utilities can't charge you a fee of any kind when you plug in these systems in your own apartment or home. And we make sure that the law applies to publicly owned utilities like SMUD and LADWP, as well as the investor-owned utilities like PG&E. We have a large and growing coalition of supporters. This is our latest logo collage. If any of you are part of any organizations that have not yet signed on, we are taking support. We're going to be submitting the letter tonight to the committee that will be hearing this bill next week. So not too late, and it's never too late. So you can even let me know later. Dave will go into all of this, but we want more people supporting us, but we have some really good array here of both nonprofits, small and large, in the environmental and climate space, as well as some consumer protection and low income groups that see this as an important part of making living in California more affordable. Now, you'd think that nobody could possibly be against such an obvious no-brainer practical solution as balcony solar, but alas, sadly, there is opposition. So far, officially in writing, we have the Electrical Workers Union that work for the big utilities and do a lot of advocacy on their behalf. They have come out and put their opposition in writing, and we've been told verbally in the author's office that the big three investor-owned utilities are preparing their letters now. So again, we do expect opposition coming from the investor-owned utilities and their labor union, unfortunately. But we're very hopeful that if we get enough people on our side, if we get enough phone calls and emails and organizations officially supporting us, we will be able to push past this opposition. And put this bill on the governor's desk and move this market forward. So just want to highlight again that the bill is going to be up in the Senate Energy Committee next Tuesday, the 17th, 9 a.m. If anybody is intrepid and wants to come all the way to Sacramento, we always want people in the room. It's not virtual anymore, so you got to be in the room when it happens and lend your voice in support. And then after that, we will go through a couple more committees, and then we'll hopefully pass off the Senate floor and cross over to the Assembly, do it all over again, and then hopefully make it to the governor's desk by end of August. So that's the California kind of legislative year in a nutshell. As Cora mentioned, if we can do it here, it will really make a huge difference and will help us get this market off the ground. Last thing I'll say, and I'll pass the baton to Dave. I have spent the past 25 years promoting distributed solar energy and was a key player in the Million Solar Roofs initiative to promote rooftop solar. And I got to tell you, these are the exact same dynamics we faced 25 years ago when we introduced the idea of the Million Solar Roofs. We had an obvious no-brainer technology. It was incredibly expensive. We didn't have the large manufacturers and then the plethora of industry players to help bring the price down and make it available everywhere in the state. But we leaned into it, and we put the state of California's muscle behind it. We painted the vision of what's possible, and we've accomplished quite a bit. A lot of work still to do on that front, but in the meantime, we were really excited to bring balcony solar to the fore here in the Golden State. So with that, I'll pass the baton back to you, John, and then to Dave. Thank you.
Great. Okay, so now let's take a look at how we can make it happen. So David Rosenfeld is the executive director of the Solar Rights Alliance, a statewide network of over 150,000 solar users. It works for California, in which rooftop solar property rights are protected and where we all have the right to make energy from the sun without unreasonable interference from the utilities. David?
All right. Thank you, John. I'm going to share my screen, and I am going to talk about what you can do to pass SB 868, the Plug into the Sun Act. It's very simple. So I'm going to go through it, and then if you have questions, you can ask. Okay. So there's basically 5 things, really 4 things, and then just do this over and over again and get other people to do this over and over again. The first thing is, if you haven't done this already, send an email to both your state assembly member and your state senator. That's always the first thing to do. It's good to do. Lots of people have done this already. And the second thing to do is to call both of their offices and tell them that you support this bill and you want them to support it as well. Then get other people to do the same exact thing. And then the final thing, and I believe that some people in the Slow Climate Coalition are doing this already, but the more the merrier. So if you're also part of a different group or a different kind of like, just anything, the more kind of touches, the better. Try to meet with your assembly member and senator either in person or over Zoom so you can personally ask them to support the bill. And then lather, rinse, repeat. You can't do this kind of thing enough in terms of getting other people to do it. Because this is in the Senate right now, if you had to like prioritize, should I prioritize my senator or my assembly member? You want to prioritize your senator, but there's no harm in doing both at the same time if it's the same to you. But that might be a little bit of a pecking order that you can think of. We have some resources for you that I think John, I think you can send this to people. Also, you guys, Slow Climate Coalition might have resources that have been developed by Slow Climate Coalition, and if they have that, you should use those instead. But if you're casting about for like sample language and that kind of thing, we've got a sample email message that you can take and you can adapt to send to your legislators. We've got a sample phone message that you can use. We also have sample ways that you can share out the information, either by emailing your friends, posting on Nextdoor, posting on the various social media platforms. So that second bullet, that link, has got both the phone message and lots of shareables. If you just need more information or you know people who need more information, then the third bullet is just a place where you can just get, simple, maybe not 3rd grade English, but, 6th grade English, kind of an explanation for how it works. We've got a link here if you want to look up who your legislators are. Some of the links up top already automatically do that for you, but if you're more of like a stick shift driver when it comes to contacting your legislators, you just want to get their info and then really personalize your interaction with them. That's a link to look them up if you're not sure. And then if you are, like Bernadette said, if you're part of a local organization that is not yet formally signed on to the coalition, then please do that. And the deadline to sign on is this evening in order to make sure that your support is registered at the hearing next week on March 17th. But there will be more hearings assuming we can pass this first bill through the first committee. So if for some reason you have a process that's going to take a little bit longer, don't fret. Just get that process in motion and just join on when you can. So these are some resources. Like I said, we can get this out to you. But just to go back again, it's all about your senator and your assembly member at the state level in the California legislature. Email them, call them, get other people to do it. try to meet with them or their staff in person, lather, rinse, repeat. And that is it. And thank you for all that you do. And thank you in advance for all that you'll be doing to help bring plug-in solar to California.
Okay, thank you all. That's all you presenters with great job to join back on the screen. We can get to some questions we have. So the first one is, given this the small, relative small production of the plug-in solar, what are the major objections of fun and what factors are funding the resistance to deregulating this scale of installs?
You mean who's objecting to this, given that they're so
And,
small? Who could possibly?
and what reasons are they using? Yes.
Yeah. Well, I can tell you again, lobbying this bill today, the number one reason that the opponents use is safety. They claim to be really putting safety first and wanting to make sure everything is safe. Of course, everybody wants safety. I'm not sure our investor and utilities are really the poster children of public safety. So it doesn't quite pass the lab test, but nonetheless, we absolutely also care about safety. And that's why we're putting so much emphasis on Underwriter Laboratory and making sure that these systems become standardized and listed, because that is the American system for consumer electronics and consumer products, to make sure that they are safe. That's number one. Number two, the utilities like to fret about, well, what if everybody got one of these things? The grid will blow up because there'll be so much clean energy out there. We won't even know what to do with ourselves. To that, Cora's research is terrific, looking at, okay, let's just pretend here and model it out. If 40% of people got one of these systems and they were each 1,200 watts, what would happen? By the way, for context, 40% is really deep penetration into a market right now. At best, we are at 20% with rooftop solar, and that's only in certain neighborhoods. So 40% balcony, that'll be the day. I mean, we can all retire, and we can solve a lot of problems if we accomplish that. But even then, it never leaves the local neighborhood. And this is another thing. I was talking about Kirchhoff's law, right? Mostly the electrons will never leave your house if you have a small balcony system. Just immediately go to power that wireless router or that refrigerator of yours. If on some rare occasion you're not home, nothing is turned on, your refrigerator's not even cycling to keep your your food cool, you're going to export a few electrons to the grid, even with a balcony system. You don't really want to do this. You want to make sure you're sizing it really appropriately for your load, because it's not in your financial interest to just give electricity away for free to the utility. But if it did happen, the electrons would go to your next door apartment or the next door home. It would never actually enter the grid proper. There's tiny little wires that connect all of our apartments and all of our homes and or our downtown buildings in the middle of a city. Those little wires are basically exist there, and they're serviced by one transformer. The electrons, even from large rooftop solar systems, rarely ever get past that transformer and move on to the larger grid that is behind all of that infrastructure. It stays within your neighborhood. So all you're really doing is powering your neighbors. It is the best community solar sharing program in the world as a result of the way electricity flows. So there really aren't any safety issues here. This is a sort of thinly veiled opposition from utilities that make a living off of selling you electricity. So they just Pavlovian, do not like you to generate your own electricity. And we hope the legislature will see right through that and will join with us in passing it. But to Dave's thing, ultimately, it's a tug of war. It's a political tug of war. We can have all the great arguments, all the great technology we want, and it comes down to politics. And politicians react to two things: money and people. It's been the same since, I don't know, time immemorial, and it is still very true. And so we don't have the money. We do not have the deep pockets of the utility, but we have people on our side. So that's why your humble phone call, your humble email, and getting others to do the same thing, it absolutely moves mountains and works. Cora, I don't know if you want to add on to any of that.
That was excellent, Bernadette. I think I would just add, like, what other tools do we have in the arsenal? We have facts. the facts are on our side. And if you're looking for some justification for the safety arguments, two things. The report that we talked about is on our website, brightsaver.org. That's the utility impact report showing basic nothing, even at 40%. The other piece is this new certification criteria from UL, and it's a bummer that it's more than $900 to buy it. But their white paper is available for free. So I think that should give us a lot of confidence that we're in a new territory in terms of safety, and we really don't need to worry. However, we do need to prove that we don't need to worry. And we think those are the two best sources of primary data justifying what Bernadette just said.
Great. So, Cora, you mentioned a gray market, and the question is, why not support a gray market with installation manuals along with kits that includes adequate installation materials, complete installs to code, preventing ground faults and too small wiring? So why not push gray?
So why not push gray? That's a really interesting question. The primary reason is, well, I'll speak for myself. I don't trust uncertified rogue systems to protect consumers. I think that we need to pass this legislation so that we have safety standards from the major manufacturers who are going to take this very, very seriously. Why don't we support a gray market? It'll make this movement grow much more slowly. And we don't have time to waste. We have to get this off the ground. It took 10 years in Germany. It did exist in this gray market area. We need to jump the queue and make this happen way faster.
Okay. Dave?
Yeah, I mean, I actually am a pretty average consumer. Like I care about the climate, but I got solar based on price. I'm not particularly technical, and also I'm busy, so I don't have time to like read manuals and that kind of thing. And I think I admire people who are technical, but I think I am like most people where it's like I'm not going to buy the product unless I can just go to Walmart, pull it off the shelf, bring it home, plug the damn thing in, and then do my laundry and make food for my kids, and then go, you know, do all the things that I got to do. And so that's, I think, to Cora's point, like I think most people think like the way I do. And so what we want to do is just make it plug and play. And that's how we may get it to 4 million. Like that's how Germany got it to 4 million. And I think our goal is let's bring this to the masses, and to bring it to the masses, it does have to be kind of black and white.
Okay. So the next question is, I think this has been covered in the presentation, but may just want to clarify it. Do the solar electrons need to pass through the apartment's unit service panel to supply the loads to the apartment?
Do the solar electrons ever move past the home environment itself?
Do they need to go to the service panel before serving a load in the apartment?
So you mean to the electrical panel? Do they go to the, so yeah, they'll follow a circuit. The electrons will follow the line of a circuit. It'll get to the breaker box, and then it'll turn around and go back down another circuit, depending on what's plugged in. So if you have a circuit in your living room and there's literally nothing plugged in, the electrons really won't bother going there. They're going to go to where the air conditioner is, the refrigerator is. So yeah, you are utilizing that entire behind the meter infrastructure, including your electrical box, for those electrons. Some people advocate for dedicated circuits, plug-in solar to be on a dedicated circuit. That's just to make it totally dummy proof, so you don't have any breaker masking. But as long as the systems are small or UL certified, you're going to be fine to just plug and play them anywhere, which is again why we want to see this market really take off through the certification. The last thing I'll just mention is we have a gray market right now. So that is doing what it's doing. It's going to be there. There's nothing that's outlawing that. What we're trying to do is in law the true market, the really for again on the consumer shelves of mainstream economy in America, so we can see it take off.
Do we know where CCAs, community choice agencies, stand on this issue?
I have only had one meeting with Los Angeles CCA, and they were waiting to see where, some other organizations were going to come down. I would love it if any of you have, persuasion, with any CCA. They absolutely should be on board. We do have the support of the Local Government Sustainability Council, which is made up of a lot of local city governments around the state that care about sustainability. They have come on board officially. But we are looking for more support, and it would be great to get the CCAs on board. So if you guys could help us with that, that'd be terrific.
Okay. The question is there anything about the electric system, the voltage, etc., that makes it easier for them to install in the US?
We do have a different electrical system here than we have in Europe. So if they were exactly the same, we could just order the same system they're shipping to Munich right now, and plug it into our electrical system. And all of these safety concerns really come down to how do we adapt these systems that have had a 10-year record in Germany, 4 million households, no major safety incidents. How do we adapt that to our electrical system? I would say it's not easier here. However, the laws of physics that make it possible for it to be safe in Germany are the same here. We just need to adapt the technology to be just as safe on our electrical system.
Okay, thank you. So I have one for someone who lives in a mobile home where he's banned from having solar. Would he be able to use this technology?
Or do you want to take that one too?
Yeah, I don't think so. So I myself actually went to every mobile home park in the Bay Area and knocked on the main person store. I mean, so look, here's the situation in mobile parks. Every mobile park has a policy as to whether they allow solar generally. And at least here in the Bay Area, most did not. So that is to this question. It, that's another fight ahead, to be honest with you. So Germany did this in two legislative waves. One was what we're trying to do now that Utah already did. Virginia already did it. Hopefully California will do. That's the interconnection exemption. That's saying these are different systems with different safety concerns. After that, we saw an uptick in Germany, but the real boom happened when we did what you're talking about, tenants' rights. So HOA protections, or the equivalent of HOA protections. And then we saw it go from the hundreds of thousands to the millions, 4 million in a matter of years. That is the next fight ahead. We believe that that fight is easier once these are well established. Your neighbor has them. We have a better real world safety record to draw upon. As of today, my understanding is you would only be allowed to have these in mobile home parks if that was the policy of your particular mobile home park. And to my knowledge, that's the minority. I don't know, Bernadette, or Dave, if you have different experience there.
No, I think again, there's sort of two different things. There's the technology itself and how it can literally plug into our homes wherever we live, whether it's a mobile home or an apartment home or a single family home or what have you. And then there is the local policies, whether that's the city, the county that you live, or the apartment, or the housing, and this is the type of thing that we have gone through the growing pains in the rooftop solar market, right? The rooftop solar market has been through hell and high water to get those technologies in the hands of everybody, because there's lots of opposition that comes out of the woodwork. Some of it is obvious, like from the utilities, and some of it is not so obvious, like from an HOA that thinks it's ugly looking or something silly. So we're going to have those same type of growing pains for balcony solar. And as Cora said, we're just going to have to tackle these things one at a time. Right now, getting the interconnection clarified and streamlined is the number one barrier. Without that out of the way, it doesn't matter if an HOA has a good or bad policy. We need that first, and that's going to be the heavy lift, because the utilities are such big campaign contributors here in Sacramento, and they carry a lot of political clout.
Yeah, we don't need any more enemies for this first round.
Yeah.
So someone asked how the organization would sign onto the letter.
Let's
Dave,
put it right in the chat. We'll
Yeah.
just put a link in the chat. We'll put the letter, and you just click on, it takes you to a Google Doc, and it takes you to a Google Excel sheet, and you just give us your name, your title, your organization, and if you have a logo, you upload the logo, and we will get that in there today. If you can do that by 5 o'clock, it'll definitely make the committee analysis. But again, as Dave mentioned, this is an evergreen action. So if you and your organization don't quite make 5 p.m. today, please still use that link. The letter will continue to be iterative, and we will add you on. Thank you, Dave. We will add you on because we're going to go through at least 6 committees and 2 floor votes. So we're going to be utilizing those resources. And, just for those of you who don't lobby, this is what I'm going to be passing out today. So please add your color, add your name, and it really helps us, show legislators just what widespread support there is.
can you confirm that balcony solar does not require a building permit?
No, that's what Bernadette was talking about. I mean, we have these 2 levels. So there are authorities of jurisdiction. So you would still need to follow the rules of your municipality, your city. But the first necessary step is defining the authority of the utilities to stop or regulate these little systems.
Yeah, so these are not, just to add a tiny bit more color, I agree with everything Cora said. These are portable devices. You don't get a permit to plug in a refrigerator. There really isn't a whole lot of, I think, requirements here for your local building department to spend its time on. That said, as Cora mentioned, if the building department decided it wanted to make it its business, we're going to have to work with them and deal with that as a second iteration of this. So again, this is sort of like when you have new technologies enter the market, there tend to be like these new barriers that pop up, and it's, you've just got to take them sequentially. But we're hopeful that most building departments are welcome the fact that these are UL listed, understand that these are basic appliances like a toaster oven. They understand the physics of electricity and that the electricity is never going to leave the apartment, or rarely so, and have a lot on their hands really actually regulating the true built environment and home improvement projects that need tighter scrutiny, and that we'll be able to move about the cabin here very shortly without too much interruption.
So we had one question: if small electrons really pass a transformer, what is the safety hazard to the line workers servicing lines if they do?
All inverters shut off immediately within milliseconds of a power outage. So that concern was solved actually years and years ago. This is not new to plug-in solar. This is, in my opinion, a made-up safety concern that there is a very clear, well-established protocol for mitigating.
Yeah, but just to answer the physics question, just so that we're all educated here, in theory, okay, let's just take in theory, if you had a balcony solar system, it's so ridiculous to say it out loud because they're so small, but if you had any kind of solar system that was generating electrons at any given moment, and somebody, let's say a truck rammed into an electrical pole and knocked the pole over, and it knocked the wires loose, if that solar system, if the utility shut down the grid manually, centrally, right? They kind of shut down that substation, that area, and that neighborhood so that the line workers could go out and repair the broken line. And somebody had a solar system, whether it was balcony or rooftop or parking lot, it doesn't matter. If they had a solar system that didn't have this feature that Cora's talking about, the solar system would just do what it does, and it would generate electricity, and those electrons would flow past the transformer, continue on to wherever that broken line is, because electrons just move. They just move. This is like physics. So that is a technical potential risk. So as Cora mentioned, For 20 years now, we have had a requirement on every inverter, on every solar system, that it have this automatic shutdown feature so that there's just no way that you can cause any problems to any line workers down the line. It's an inconvenience if the grid goes down and all you have is a solar system and no battery, because it means you don't get to use that solar energy even though the sun might be shining and you could use it at that moment. It's an inconvenience for a lot of consumers, and people don't understand that. If you have a battery, it has a more computer chips inside it. It can shut itself down from the grid and isolate the house and power the house during a grid outage. So batteries are kind of a game changer on this. But for the case of what we're talking about here, simple plug and play solar systems, they're all going to come with that feature that's mandatory. And there will be no risk to the grid. If a truck ran into a pole, nobody's going to get unnecessarily hurt because you have a balcony solar system in your apartment.
So, well, question, I'm going to put two questions together. One person has an interconnection agreement. Can he purchase and install one of these right now? Another person has a Powerwall 3 that's and solar. Can he use one of these systems as well?
It's
Can
a
you say
gray
the second?
area.
Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead. I didn't fully hear the question. You go ahead, Bernadette.
Oh, I think I did, but John, if I didn't, repeat it. So the first question is, it's a gray area. A lot of people are putting these systems in and not getting an interconnection agreement. I think the utilities, frankly, would be shocked if people actually came knocking on their door wanting an interconnection agreement. They declare that that's the policy, but it's not really set up for that. So it is a gray area. A lot of people are not doing that, but there is no real balcony solar police, running around. So I think this bill, it creates clarity. It's not really going to change in terms of consumers' experience. I don't think it's going to change that much, but it does create that certainty and clarity that allows businesses to move into the state and set up shop. And then if you have a existing rooftop solar system and an existing, say, power wall, these will work. They will work in parallel with each other. You just will have more solar energy. You want to be careful not to exceed your interconnection requirement, your net metering requirement. So these systems, by definition, are under that. It's a 1 kilowatt or 10%, whichever is less of your solar size. So for the most part, if you do one of these things, you're going to be under the rules there. And it will just work with your other equipment. And then there are special batteries that come with these plug-in systems. So you can get just a standalone solar panel plugged into the wall. That's like the simplest version. You can also do a plug-in battery. Same basic idea. The panels plug into the battery. The battery is what plugs into the wall. And those devices are also available. And then you have that energy. You can plug in your refrigerator or what have you to that battery if the grid goes down.
Okay, great. We're reaching the end of our time, and we had a question: will this webinar be available to share? Yes, it will be. We sent to all registrants. Now, will you folks make your slides decks available, and we can forward those as well?
Yeah, ours are already on our website, brightsaver.org, under Take Action Toolkit.
Okay.
I will
great.
I will PDF mine, John, and email it to you guys right now so you can share it.
I put
Super.
the relevant links to just dive in and take action in the chat. You can just go to Solar Rights Alliance and it's all there on the homepage. The way to contact legislators, call your legislators, all the things.
Okay. I want to shout out to Monica of Glendale Environmental Coalition, who's going to be doing a post about this very soon. So great.
Great.
There's people asked a few questions about legislators, what the positions were, and potential co-authors, and I'm just going to encourage those people to reach out to Dave or Cora or Bernadette separately.
Specific questions about specific legislators and specific tactics and all that kind of stuff. We want to dig in with you and just help you figure that stuff out. Email me at info@solarrights.org. We respond to every email, and I'll look for stuff from people in the audience here, and we can help you get your stuff going as quickly as you can. Info@solarrights.org.
Yeah, and just like organizations endorsing the bill. We're looking for legislators to join Senator Weiner in co-authoring. We have a handful of co-authors, but if you have a friendly legislator and you think that they should co-author, the door's wide open. We would love to have an army of assembly members and senators joining us on this bill.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. A big thank you to the presenters for an excellent and informative webinar, and the team that helped put this presentation together. You can find links for our previous webinars at slowclimatecoalition.org, and please let us know of any topics you would like us to cover in the future webinars. And again, thank you